Carrie Bradshaw is a complicated woman. When Sex and the City premiered on HBO in 1998, Carrie was ahead of her time, an unfiltered and unapologetic voice on sex, love, and relationships in a media landscape that still expected many of its female protagonists to settle into marriage and motherhood. But the years have not been kind to Carrie. Changes to her characterization from within the show's production, combined with time's ever-evolving ideas of feminism and a general rise in media cynicism, have contributed to shifts in audience perception of the fictional icon. In more recent internet history, TikTokers have taken to highlighting Carrie's shortcomings by editing compilations of some of her worst moments, framing them in the context of Carrie was the real villain of Sex and the City, or Sex and the City from Big's perspective is a horror story. And yes, Carrie has no shortage of obnoxious scenes and annoying mannerisms, and rightfully, her fair share of mistakes within the story. But in many cases, these moments are taken completely out of context to fit into a skewed narrative for the sake of a joke. With the third season of the Sex and the City spin-off, And Just Like That, premiering soon, I figured now was as good a time as any to sit down and reflect on Carrie's characterization and how it's changed over the years. I want to preface, I'm not making this video just to be a hater. Because truly, as much as I dunk on the show and its characters, it really comes from a place of love. It's because I love and respect Carrie Bradshaw as a character that I get so frustrated with her behavior. No, I am by no means fully defending Carrie's actions. She's a very flawed character. And many of the choices that Sarah Jessica Parker makes, especially in the later seasons, the movies, and the spin-off, are extremely questionable to me from an acting perspective, but it's unfair to label Carrie outright as the villain, and to claim that all of her actions are annoying, when that's just not true. A lot of them are. A lot of them are. But I don't think a blanket statement here is productive. And too much harsh criticism of the character, even that which it deserves, can eclipse aspects of Carrie that really were groundbreaking and lovable. Yes, Carrie is kind of a mess at times, but much of that was integral to the plot, and that's what made her a relatable, memorable character. Broe Deschanel has a video titled Who's Afraid of Carrie Bradshaw?, which explores the widespread hate for the character and argues whether or not the vitriol is deserved. The video dives much farther into the noticeable changes to the characterization of Carrie and the forces behind the scenes that led to them.
It's almost as though the character has been fractured by external forces, changing times, a change in writers or their lifestyles, outside influence from the actress who played her. But should we love late-stage, neurotic, self-obsessed, morally dubious Carrie any less than we love the cool girl Carrie of earlier seasons?
I highly recommend checking it out, as it goes way more in depth than I intend to on the topic. It's also some much welcomed nuance and perspective in a time when much of the internet insists on asserting that something can only either be good or bad. In a Substack article titled In Defense of Carrie Bradshaw, Stephanie Tinsley writes, "Everyone wants to be like Carrie, but no one wants to be like Carrie. She is both deeply flawed and undeniably lovable. She's funny, intelligent, dynamic, and has incredible taste. She's also needy, selfish, aloof, judgmental, and stubborn, and eventually grows to have questionable taste. I added that last part myself. In short, she's complicated, and our perception of the character likely changes based on how much of her we see in ourselves. While there's a lot more discourse to be had over whether or not Carrie is annoying, if she's a good friend, if she's a well-written female character, if she's a pick-me, etc., the point of this video isn't really to do any of that. No, I intend to explore the symptoms rather than the underlying cause. Because one of the critical manifestations of Carrie's foray into obnoxious territory is screaming. And I feel comfortable critiquing this aspect because it's not a complex character trait, but a behavior, or in some cases, merely an acting choice. There are many a post in the Sex and the City Reddit and elsewhere across the internet pointing out how annoying and unrealistic Carrie's screams are. They're too screechy. A grown woman would never scream like that. They're Sarah Jessica Parker's attempt to be cute gone wrong, with a lot of people pointing out that she, as an actor, adds her signature scream to characters in other projects as well. And much like the overall characterization of Carrie, I think the screams are more nuanced than thing bad. Yeah, a lot of them are bad, but plenty of them are very reasonable reactions within the scene they show up in. So I decided to take it upon myself to track every time Carrie Bradshaw screams in an organized tier list. I'll be ranking the screams based on how appropriate of a reaction they are, factoring in quality and tone of the scream itself into my criteria. An appropriately timed scream, for example, will lose points if it's too annoying. I've named my tiers based on iconic yet obnoxious Carrie lines. Up top, number 1, we have
"Get it while it's hot."
These are well-placed screams that make complete and total sense in the scene, perhaps even adding to it. Screams that, when I hear them, I think, yeah, I would have reacted like that too, either in real life if it happened or as an actor in the scene. Next, we have,
Well, laugh, it's a joke.
Oh.
this is for the screams that, while not 100% appropriate as a reaction, are still fitting for the moment at hand or otherwise enjoyable within the scene. Would I have screamed? Maybe not, but I can enjoy SJP's character choices here. These screams mean well enough. Next is
Drunken Vogue.
These are the screams that I disagree with, but that don't piss me off entirely. It feels like a questionable character choice, and it's distracting me from the scene, but it's not so unbearable that it makes the bottom tier, leaning slightly more into indifference than anger on my end, but still not great. And finally, bottom tier, we have
You and I, nothing!
This is for the worst of the worst Carrie screams. Screechy and obnoxious, cringy, ill-placed as a reaction to the events in the scene, over-exaggerated, and unforgivable. Carrie can be found screaming quite a bit in the 6 seasons of the original series, both of the 2 movies, both of the 2 released seasons of And Just Like That, and, believe it or not, in the trailer for season 3. Across the franchise, many instances of screaming contain multiple sequential screams, and outside of these moments, there are plenty of gasps, over-the-top reactions, or words that are pronounced with like a screechy, scream-like tone. These moments are scream adjacent, but they're not full screams, so I won't be considering them for this video. I'll play you some other examples that are not on the list right now.
Screechy! Mary?
Stop it. Get some help.
I'll be going through this list chronologically, and it will immediately become clear that the majority of screams come later in the show, with season 6 being the most scream heavy. This is consistent with the overall changes in Carrie's characterization and the level of control on the part of SJP. So, with all of that said, let's get to the list. As far as my tracking detected, there's only one scream in the show's first season, and it takes place in episode 4. Carrie has just spent the night with a 20-something and wakes up to the horror show that is his gross apartment and, surprise, his roommate. When Carrie unexpectedly encounters the roommate on her way to the bathroom, the viewer is blessed with our very first Carrie scream. Scream happens off-screen, which is a bit of a bummer, but the scream itself in the context of the scene makes complete sense. Imagine running into this guy in a strange apartment before you've had your coffee. Totally fair. Plus, it's the first scream on the list. So that gives it, some points. And placing it firmly in tier 2. Well, laugh, it's a joke. And I think we're off to a great start. Okay, so there are no screams in season 2. I feel like I really hyped up how many times she screams, and then we have a whole season where there's just no screams. At least not from Carrie, and at least not that I noticed. But if I missed any, you just let me know in the comments. There was one scene that I thought was a scream, but it was just some awkward noises, which are weird, I can't deny. But I can't rank them, so we're gonna move on. Though it's worth noting that, as evidenced by the lack of screams, the early seasons of Sex and the City really were basically a different show than what we ended with, and certainly from the current franchise. The characters just behave so differently, and not differently because people change over time, fundamentally differently. About midway through season 3, things begin to change, and screaming creeps its way into Carrie's behavioral DNA.
The turn creeps up in season 3 and cements itself in season 4, as Carrie's very characterization begins to change, when she goes from world-weary cool girl to weak, self-obsessed, helpless prude. It's when that turn happens that the public turns on her as well.
The influx of screams in the second half of season 3 align with this. Things mostly start to pick up in the latter half of season 3, but there are 2 screams in the earlier episodes of the season. In the first episode of season 3, Carrie and Charlotte are at a bar. Charlotte is being hit on by a guy that she is not interested in, and that guy gets promptly punched in the face by Charlotte's next date. On his way up from the floor, he grabs Carrie's leg for help, and she screams.
Nice.
Little help.
As invasive and scary as it is to be grabbed by a strange man, the context of this is objectively funny. The timing of his grab followed by her scream is superb. It is a public place, which I don't appreciate, but considering that this guy just got decked in the face in this public space, I think the patrons can handle a scream. This is going in Get It While It's Hot. I actually really like this one. In episode 4, Carrie goes on a date with a guy who is openly bisexual, and Carrie has a lot of problematic, outdated opinions on that. They go ice skating, and over the course of the scene, Carrie screams multiple times.
Computer.
I think because she's afraid of falling. He also definitely does some tickling, but I think they mostly stem from fear of slipping on the ice, which I get, but it's a lot. One scream I could have passed off as cutesy, but the sheer number of them gets the whole package demoted. These are going into Drunk at Vogue.
In season 3, episode 13, we find the gals in Los Angeles, and Carrie, in spite of being a terrible driver, drives them uphill in a stick shift. As the car careens backwards, they all let out screams of fear.
Bags are in New York.
There are a few different screams in this moment, not all from Carrie, but I'm pretty positive that at least one of them does come from her mouth. And I understand the screaming from the girls as passengers completely. But Carrie is the one in control in this moment, and her screams stem from the danger that she put herself and her friends in, so get it together, Carrie. This is going in well laugh, it's a joke, I can laugh at it, and the whole car thing is the type of annoying Carrie behavior that I can tolerate, and find charming even. It feels in line with her character and makes sense as something that she would do, even though it's stupid. But I do think it makes much more sense that Samantha and Miranda are screaming here, not Carrie. In the next episode, still in LA, Samantha and Carrie travel to the Valley to buy knockoff bags, dupes, as the kids call them. They end up bailing on the bags, and on their way out, let out a shriek as they get surprised and scared by a barking guard dog. I'm putting this in Drunk at Vogue. I don't like this scream, but I don't loathe it. It makes sense, but to me it undercuts the nice character moment that we just saw from Carrie as she dismisses the fake bags. It's played completely for comedy, but I don't think the scene needed a comedic beat right here, but I wasn't the writer, so maybe it did. Either way, it's going in tier 3. The next episode finds our girl back home in New York. This is 3 episodes in a row with screams, by the way, just for those playing along at home. Carrie dates the guy who works at the comic book store and lives with his parents. They get high and throw fried chicken at each other. Carrie screams playfully a few times here. None of them are too egregious in tone, so I can let them slide into laugh, it's a joke. It certainly fits the immature vibe of the encounter, and again, most importantly, they don't make my ears hurt. I could have sworn that Carrie screams when she gets mugged in episode 17. I even put it on my tracker during my rewatch for this video, but when I went back to capture the clip, no screaming. But there is one final season 3 scream in episode 18. Well, there's a couple of screams actually, but they're all part of the same scene. Carrie goes to meet Big for lunch at the Central Park Lake House, and they promptly fall into the lake together.
What is that?
This one I go so back and forth on because it's so shrill, but it's such a charming moment and it's perfectly appropriate for the scenario. It feels very Carrie. At least the first scream I feel that way about. The second I'm less sure of, but I'm lumping them together. I'm really tempted to put it in Get It While It's Hot. I think season 3 is the last of Carrie in her true original form. So I'm gonna top tier it for sentimental value. Season 4 starts out strong. Carrie's friends miss her birthday dinner and she goes home to her apartment and takes a hot shower and has a good cry, but oops, Charlotte walks in and catches her completely by surprise, which is fair because she walks right in on her in the shower. Come on, Charlotte. Carrie screams and she's totally valid for it. It's not played for cheap laughs and it belongs right up here in Get It While It's Hot. So I'm putting it there before I change my mind. The next episode, Carrie is asked to walk in a fashion show and much to her shock and dismay, will be walking out in jeweled panties and a fabulous coat. But while she's changing into said jeweled panties behind the clothing rack, Alan Cumming moves the clothes, surprising Carrie, who lets out a shriek.
Oh, God.
Fair enough. It's understandable. It's a bit much for my taste, the scream itself. I don't think a scream was necessary here, especially given the environment she's in. And like, I am so not trying to victim blame, but she's constantly saying how she doesn't want to be there without outright saying, I don't want to do this, I'm leaving. Like, if you want to go, go. But you're here, so get with the program. Like, there's a lot of models changing back there. I don't know. Maybe that's bad of me to think so, but I think the scream is too much. So it's going in Drunk at Vogue, but with the acknowledgement that, like, it was an appropriately timed scream, given the scenario, but I just hate it.
In season 4, episode 4, Carrie is dating jazz musician Ray, whose ADD is mistaken by Carrie as like refreshing spontaneity. At one point, they are in bed together, and as they're about to go at it, he pulls her down the bed and she lets out a scream. I feel like these screams that are in the comfort and the safety of the bedroom are semi-acceptable, but also, is it necessary, Carrie? Of all the sounds that you could use to express yourself right now, you're going with a full-bodied scream? Okay. This is going in Drunk at Vogue. It is particularly shrill, and I don't care for it. Also, I don't like these episodes where she dates Ray.
Moving on to episode 9, the infamous Sex in the Country episode, where Carrie joins Aiden at his country cabin, screams at his squirrel, and burns herself with a pie tin. It's chaos, it's peak Carrie's a menace behavior, and it gives us 2 unbearable screams. The first, as mentioned, comes when Carrie comes face to face with a big squirrel in the window. I get it, it's a rodent, but girl, come on. The over-exaggerated nature of the scream and the over-the-top reaction in that moment that like it doesn't really warrant just does not work for me. And the second scream is also at the squirrel and is equally over the top, if not more so, because it causes Carrie to drop the hot pie tin she's holding and burn herself. There's a lot of noise and flailing, and it feels very cartoonish, so it's an immediate bottom tier moment for me. The next scream comes in episode 11, very similar to the episode 1 scream. Carrie thinks she's alone in her apartment when she's surprised by the appearance of Steve, who she was very much and very rightfully not expecting.
Oh my god!
After the scream, she plays off the moment in a way that felt real and grounded. And yeah, this is a terrifying scenario, and a scream in the moment feels true to life. Especially because she's already jumpy around Steve right now, because this is when he doesn't yet know that Miranda is pregnant. So Carrie's like already frazzled by the fact that it's Steve, let alone the fact that she was surprised. The scream itself has a nice quality to it as well. It's not overly shrieky. Nice one, Carrie. This is going in Get It While It's Hot. I like it. And our final scream of season 4 is not 100% valid on this list because I can't confirm whether or not Carrie herself actually screams. The girls are gathered around the TV watching an adult film, laughing, and they occasionally hoot and holler and scream. Various voices scream, but at no point does Carrie scream on camera the way that the others do. But there's still a possibility she joins in the screaming off screen. Her track record would tell us that it's extremely probable that she does scream here, so I'm tempted to count it, but upon closer inspection of the scene, I don't think she screams. She's mostly covering her eyes in classic Carrie prudish fashion, but I'm actually fairly confident now that she does not scream. Season 5 is only a mere 8 episodes, and there are screams in 3 of them. So do with that info whatever you will. But also the first episode scream is really like 4 screams, so they're truly making the most of their limited time, I guess. This scene is one of the go-tos for showing off SJP's overacting and weird character choices. Taking herself on a solo city date, Carrie gets caught in some inclement weather. She screams as the wind blows her skirt up, twice. And when the rain begins to fall, she screams again, twice. This is classic annoying Carrie. The narrative in this moment is like, Carrie's having a bad day. Sometimes New York can be unpredictable, just like a man. But the overacting just ruins any point that it's trying to make. Carrie is flawed and messy and can say the wrong thing, yes, but she's never been a buffoon quite like she is in this scene. Straight to the bottom for you, season 5, episode 1 screams. The next scream is also classic annoying Carrie. Any episode where she has this haircut, which is basically all of season 5 and some of season 6, you can almost guarantee that Carrie's gonna act weird. So the gals go to Atlantic City for Charlotte's birthday, and Carrie is trying to force a good time. They're at the tables, and some guy has Carrie blow on his dice. He ends up winning big, and wouldn't you know it, she screams in reaction. I get it. But also, girl, relax. You didn't even win. I mean, he does give her a $1,000 chip, but the scream was before that. It's a semi-valid reaction, but I have a real problem with grown adults screaming like this in public spaces, which Carrie does quite a few times on this list. I'll add a couple points for the fact that it's meant to be like a fun environment, so like fair enough for reacting that way, but I'm putting it in Drunk of Vogue instead of fully at the bottom. It does not get to go higher than that. It's not totally at the bottom, but it does not get to go higher than this. And last, and surprisingly least annoying of season 5, is in episode 4. Carrie walks in on Samantha servicing her delivery man, but she doesn't scream in reaction to Samantha or even when she runs into the doorframe, but she simply lets out like an almost muted shriek on her final exit out of the office. It's funny.
Ha ha, laugh, funny. That's funny? To me, it's funny.
And it's not overdone. Like, it's grounded in reality, or I suppose as much reality as the show can muster at this point. But it's almost just like a scream to herself, as opposed to screaming into the void or at the other people around her, like in other scenes. And I actually think this one's quite charming. I'm gonna put it in, well, laugh. It's a joke. Okay. It's time for the longest stretch of screams. Everybody take a deep breath and strap in. We're still kind of dealing with short-haired Carrie, so screams are expected. Carrie screams on her way into the movie theater with Berger. I really don't even have a guess as to what she's screaming about, honestly. Like, they're going through the revolving door and he picks something up off the ground and she screams.
Oh my God, bro.
Like, this is just peak screaming because I think it's cute behavior, and I vehemently, I super duper disagree with it. This is going in Drunk at Vogue. Circumstantially, it's an absolute bottom tier, but the scream itself isn't so unbearable as to land it in the bottom, so here it goes. The next episode is difficult to break down because there are screams and there are screechy noises and screechy line deliveries. This is the scrunchy episode. This is peak Carrie squeak. There are 2 distinguishable screams in the episode, and I'm going to be ranking both of them separately. The first comes early in the episode when Carrie is out to dinner with the girls and Berger. She screams in response to something he says. It's a bit demure, but it's still a scream in a public place, which is a no from me. She really doesn't need to be reacting this way to a regular conversation, so this goes in Drunk at Vogue. The second full scream in the episode is near the end. The scrunchy drama is resolved between Carrie and Berger, yay, and he shows up in her bathroom rocking a scrunchie of his own. They playfully banter and tickle, and she screams as they head to the bedroom. It's not a huge, full-bodied scream, and it's not only in a playful context, but it's also in the comfort and the safety of her own home. So this can inoffensively go into, well, laugh, it's a joke. She's really redeemed herself by the end of this episode. Episode 5, this is such a prime example of a scream for scream's sake because it's just there to unnecessarily punctuate the conversation. Carrie and the girls are at their usual lunch, brunch, whatever, and she ends her statement with a scream. It's actually so insufferable to me. Like, this scream has no purpose. I find it unfunny and unappealing. I'm sorry. It's going straight to the bottom. Like, you just don't need to be screaming right now. Episode 7. Okay. Carrie's out of pocket in this episode. After Berger famously breaks up with her on a post-it and she subsequently expresses her emotion to his unsuspecting friends, Carrie and the girls pop into a dive bar. For some reason, the girls are acting extremely out of place here, and their actions get them into a minor scuffle with some dive bar girlies who stand on business. These girlies scared the shit out of Carrie and Samantha, which causes them to literally scream and run away in a way that can only be described as cartoonish. This is premium SJP overacting, but the context of the screaming does make some sense, I suppose, but I despise kind of this whole episode, so unfortunately, it's going to the bottom. Episode 8, 3 screams in this episode, 2 in the same context, so they will be counted as 1, but the third is completely separate and will be treated as such. The twin screams are both as a result of trapezing, which Carrie is doing for a piece that she's writing. Okay, girl boss. This is an appropriate time to scream, I feel. Like, the feelings of fear and playfulness combine in a way, I imagine, I've never done this, in which letting out a scream probably feels like a wonderful release of energy in the moment. I don't know. Again, I've never done this, but I think I can comfortably put these into Get It While It's Hot. Like, it's a fun moment. They're out in the open air. I know they're kind of in public, but they're in the open air, and like, she's literally flipping from a trapeze. So like, scream away, Carrie. The other scream happens after Carrie throws out her back, which funnily enough is not from flipping on a trapeze harness, but from one night with Mr. Jackrabbit here. At Charlotte's wedding, he goes to hug her hello, and the awkwardness combined with the excruciating back pain results in a comedic, almost muffled scream. It's funny. It's well placed as an acting choice, I think, which I don't often think of these late series screams. I don't know, I think it really adds to the moment here and kind of the whole episode. So this is gonna live in, well, laugh, it's a joke.
While this scene from episode 11 doesn't count as screaming, there's another chance later in the episode they wouldn't hold out on us like that. When Carrie goes to see Big in the hospital after his procedure, he pranks her by pretending to still be sort of out of it, but when he surprises her, she screams because why wouldn't she?
I'm alive!
I feel more favorable about this one, not because of the scream itself, but because of Big in this scene. I think his comedic timing is strong enough for the two of them here. And I actually think, this you'd be scared. She straight up thought he was dying, which was, ill-informed, but I get it. I'll put this one into laugh, it's a joke.
Episode 12, Brady turns 1. So cute, and wouldn't you know it, Carrie expresses to Miranda earlier in the episode that there better not be a clown at this party.
Nothing's scarier than a clown.
Only to find out that there's a clown at the party. This one is so borderline for me because I can laugh at it. It is funny. Something about the delivery is still just so annoying to me, but I can't trash it too much because I do derive enjoyment from it, and I have a soft spot for this episode. It's really one of my favorites, so it's gonna go into, well, laugh, it's a joke, where I think it belongs for now, but I'm keeping an eye on it because I already really don't like the scream itself, and if it doesn't behave, it's getting demoted to a lower tier. We're nearing the end of the series, and this episode and scream is so classic Carrie, so New York. This is the episode where Carrie has a mouse in her apartment. And I'm speaking as someone who used to live in New York and has experienced the mouse in the apartment scream firsthand. These are 100% accurate, justified, appropriate. The first one in the kitchen is valid, and the second one where the mouse is in her hair is beyond valid. These go straight to the top, going in get it while it's hot. These screams restore my faith a little bit in her acting choices.
Where there's one, there will be more.
But this brings us to the 2-part series finale. And of course, we're going out with a bang. 2 screams in each of the 2 episodes. Gotta get him in there before the show is gone forever, even though it super duper comes back. Okay, part 1, episode 19. Carrie screams with glee when she sees the Eiffel Tower from their balcony. This is a tricky one because I understand it emotionally, but the scream itself is a bad one, in my humble opinion. And the face that Carrie makes as she screams just makes me mad. It's very exaggerated. I feel like this moment could have conveyed itself better with a softer reaction, but again, I'm not in charge. And it really, really doesn't help that right after the scream comes this infamous, awkward, clap jump thing that she does. This clip often finds its way into the TikTok, Carrie is insufferable montages. As much as I find those borderline problematic, I do understand why it has a place there. So this is going in, I'm drunk at Vogue. Second scream in the episode isn't as bad. Carrie and Petrovsky are in bed. Well, Carrie's in bed because he abandoned her for work, but he comes back and he tries to cheer up with some playful bedroom action. There seems to be tickling involved because Carrie lets out a little screech. Matter of fact, she lets out 2. But it's not the worst. And again, they're in the privacy of their own room, not a public space, so I'm not as offended that Carrie lets her screams run wild. This can live in, well, laugh, it's a joke. I don't love it, but I'm not personally offended by it. Part 2 of the finale, episode 20, the final episode of Sex and the City as we knew it. Scream number 1 in this episode isn't terrible. Carrie is talking to Alexander about the book party being thrown for her, and at the end of the conversation, due to her excitement, she lets out the teeny tiniest scream of joy. But what I actually love about this one is the lines before the scream escapes her mouth. Petrovsky calls the party throwers her screaming fans, and Carrie goes,
Do you think they'll really be screaming?
To which Petrovsky replies,
I hope so.
confirming that he actually loves the screams. So Carrie feels safe enough to let one out. This one is another that's not awful. It's not a perfect situation, but the scene does lay the groundwork for screaming as a concept and as an expression of excitement. So although they're in public, I do tolerate it. I guess it's soft enough for like a public scream. Let's put it safely in laugh, it's a joke. And finally, the last screams of the show come upon Carrie's return to New York and to the girls. Miranda starts the scream train. Carrie screams next. Then Samantha and Charlotte. It's screams mixed with laughter, all bouncing off each other, and it's the show's final exhale of a happy ending. Now, I've made it clear that I don't like when Carrie screams in public spaces, but this feels like an exception to me. It's the series finale, it's a scream-worthy moment, and you can really hear the joy in the screams as opposed to like cartoony shrillness, so this is gonna get a top spot for all of those reasons. But if only that were the end of it. No, it would be nice to end on that positive note, but we have to keep moving. Honestly, things only get worse from here on in. Okay. The Sex and the City movies are two of the worst pieces of writing in cinema to ever be released, and anytime they're on TV, I will stop what I'm doing, sit down, and watch them in their entirety every single time. These have become comfort movies in my household. We reference them, we quote them, they're so bad they're good. And a lot of that hate comes from the fact that, like, even more so than in the late seasons of this series, the movies tread the over-exaggerated cartoon characterization territory, and they change a lot of the defining characteristics of what made Sex and the City great to begin with. By the time the movies come out, it's more or less just a story about, like, 4 out-of-touch rich white ladies. They will try to correct this in the And Just Like That series, but honestly, it'll only make things worse.
The first of the 2 Sex and the City movies is bookended by screams, and honestly, I missed one of them on my initial watch through when I was taking stock of screams for this video. I think because I was distracted by this very heinous scream from Charlotte near the beginning of the movie.
And I'm deaf.
But there is a scream from Carrie early in the first movie as well. When Carrie and Big are touring the penthouse apartment on 5th Avenue, as they're moving from one room to another, he playfully pats her on the bum, and in response, she lets out a scream. Now, typically, and from what you've seen so far on this list, I don't like when a scream sort of punctuates a moment that it doesn't really belong in, but I actually feel different about this one because I feel like the moment that punctuates the scene is the pat on the bum, not the scream. The scream is in response to the pat on the bum, but the punctuation of the scene is the pat on the bum. So I'm actually a little bit charmed by this one. Perhaps that's contrary to what I've said about other very similar screams on this list, but I like it and it's my ranking, so I'm putting it in, well, laugh, it's a joke.
In one of the final scenes, after Carrie and Big finally get married at the courthouse, he surprises her by having already called the girls, who show up and are promptly greeted with a scream. Classic. I get this as a reaction, especially because now I've come to anticipate this from Carrie, but it doesn't have the emotional weight that the finale of the series has as like a moment of reunion for the girls. But it's not totally heinous, and it does have this sigh of relief quality at the end of the film, and now that Big finally committed to Carrie. So I'll put it in, well, laugh, it's a joke. This movie's a complete disaster. It's aged terribly. But again, it sucks me in every time it's on. It is profoundly mesmerizing in its awfulness. This sequel has one scream from Carrie right about halfway through. She's in the kitchen of their outrageous hotel looking for a midnight snack when she's caught by surprise by her butler after she forgot to dismiss him for the evening. Oh God! This is fair. You're in a foreign country in the middle of the night. They're in their private quarters, so you're certainly not expecting someone to approach you. This scream is a rough one though. And I almost want to dock more points just for the fact that like they could not get through the movie without squeezing at least one scream in there. So I think this one, despite being contextually solid, has to go in Drunk at Vogue for how much I dislike the scream itself. Now, dear viewer, you're probably thinking, okay, that was fun, video over. Wrong. It's time to talk about the spin-off. If you, like me, saw the Sex and the City movies and thought, phew, at least it can't get any worse. Wrong. I have a lot of strong feelings about And Just Like That. There's not enough time in this video, or perhaps even in this lifetime, to talk about my disdain for it, but maybe I'll make a video about it after the new season airs. I rewatched the whole thing when I was working on this video, and it was honestly worse than I remembered. Things pick up a bit in the second half of season 2, but like it's a tough watch. Much like the 2 movies, SJP is contractually obligated to scream at least once per season, and that's what we're going to talk about now. The first one really feels like they knew what they were doing with it because it's literally in the first scene of the first episode of the first season. As if to say, remember how Carrie used to scream? Do you remember? Do you guys remember that was a distinct part of her character? Do you remember? The series opens with Carrie, Charlotte, and Miranda. Samantha is noticeably absent, waiting for a table in a restaurant. After pleasantries with Bitsy Von Muffling, do you guys remember her? Do you remember her? Do you remember her from the original show? She's here. The hostess finally calls Carrie party of 3, and naturally, Carrie's first reaction is to scream. Nice! Big no-no from me. Too public, too shrill, too forced. All in all, it's an awful end to an excruciating scene, and the opening scene, no less. This is going in you and I nothing. I find this to be so the opposite of charming, and even watching it back now, like as I'm working on this video, just it serves to remind me of how much I hate this spin-off. Season 2, like I mentioned, is slightly better. Slightly. They correct some of the most glaring issues, but many problems still remain. Many problems. Carrie screams about mid-season. She's walking with the infamously polarizing Che Diaz when a dog runs across the sidewalk and Carrie mistakes it for a rat. This, dare I say it, is funny. One of my issues with the And Just Like That series is it often feels like it's happening outside of New York City, which in the original series was basically an extra main character. But this moment felt so New York. Screaming as what you think is a rat scuttles across your path is objectively hilarious. There's good delivery on this one from SJP. Do I hate the subsequent Che works as a vet's assistant storyline? Completely. But this is a funny scene. Therefore, it goes in, well, laugh, it's a joke, because, well, I did laugh, and it was a joke. Now, I bet you're thinking, there's only 2 seasons of that spin-off so far. This must be where the video ends. Wrong again. Because, well, wouldn't you know it, even though season 3 isn't out yet, there is a scream in the trailer. I was already done making my comprehensive list of screams for this video when the trailer came out. And I remember thinking, I wonder if there will be any hints of screaming in this. Like, will they tease a reaction that's like a scream? Because obviously, by this point, you know, the Carrie scream is iconic. That's why we're here today. And there was. Not only was there like a full scream, but there were some other hints of scream-like noises. Because Carrie's got to hit that 1 scream minimum quota in every piece of Sex and the City media, even the trailers. Like a few of our screams before, Carrie, as it appears to me, is caught by surprise. This time by Aiden. Do you guys remember Aiden? Do you remember him? Do you remember from the original show? He's back. This woman is always letting people sneak up on her. My gosh. But honestly, I'm kind of tired of this by now. Like, especially this one. It looks like she's in her closet and like, really? Like, you didn't hear Aiden presumably enter your home? Or if not, like, was he already there and like, you're still surprised that he's there? I don't know. The scream from being snuck up on, while valid, is getting a little tiresome, Carrie. So this is going in Drunk at Vogue. Like, I'm not happy about it. But I am begrudgingly curious to see if season 3 has any other screams in store for us. I mean, I'll be watching intently for them, though they are rather difficult to miss. Please let me know in the comments what your favorite and honestly, your least favorite Carrie screams are. I'm genuinely interested to see if the general reaction to these lines up with my own. And if you're still here, please consider liking the video and subscribing to my channel for more. I hope to see you back for another video soon.